Hello, Larry
Oh,
McInnes. So great to have you back.
hi, Louise. Yeah, it's been a while, hasn't it?
It's been such a long time. I mean, I can't believe it's such a long time since I've talked to you. Um, and I'm sure a lot of things have happened to you. But of course, the most exciting thing for me right now is our book coming out, and you've got a chapter in it.
Yes, I
And
do.
I am so excited to share your considerable life experience with everyone. Yeah, we're going to talk about an uncomfortable subject.
Yeah.
We've been talking We're going to be talking about affairs, and yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm sure a whole lot of people are going to get great benefit from this.
Uh, well, yeah.
So,
Thanks.
Larry, we're not going to talk too much about wrongdoing, and you know, we're not going to go there. Nobody's going to be throwing any stones. We are just going to go like, how can this help people? Because unfortunately, affairs is just a fact of life and it happens all the time, and a lot of lives are being influenced by it. So let's start. I want to read from a piece that you wrote in the book. Um, and so let's go ahead. Let's look at your words.
Okay.
I'm here
Yeah.
to tell you, you might want to consider out of a affair. I'd advise against the affair in the first place. And yeah, this part sucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it,
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
yes, I think it is. Okay. All right. So we're not going to. I mean, you have described in our first conversation. You've described really how it happened, and you do again in the book. You're very open about what happened. But now we want to talk to somebody who's on the verge of being in an affair. Um, what's a danger signs that tells you that you are in danger before you even want to go there?
Uh-huh. Well, thanks to the power of hindsight, I would
Yes.
say physical contact, physical intimacy, uh, uh, emotional intimacy. When those things go down, um, I don't know if it's a slippery slope or what, but it does seem to have a snowball effect. Um,
Yeah.
I would say
But
if
that
you,
you're talking, sorry, lady, you're talking
yeah,
about your inner relationship, obviously, otherwise it won't be called an affair. And in your own relationship, you just don't have that emotional intimacy anymore, and you don't have physical intimacy
right. Um,
as much.
maybe I don't know which comes first. Maybe they dovetail in together. Uh, but I would say that if either you as a potential adulterer or well, even before it gets to that part, if you suspect something's off, something's wrong, something's missing, you're probably right. Um, and it would be worth bringing up the subject sooner rather than later, uh, um, even if your partner isn't aware of it, and he or she may not be.
Yeah, I think this is so important. Bring up the subject, but isn't that where we stop? Because we don't know how to bring it up, or we bring it up in a way in which somebody can't hear us because it sounds like an accusation or a criticism or a rejection, and then we just keep quiet instead of actually saying something.
That's exactly what happened to me. And in fact, as I was thinking about this morning, um, you know, one of the things I guess I prided myself on during my marriage was that we never really got into fights or arguments or anything like that, and I thought that was a good thing. Um, but it's a crucial piece of communication and information that's missing when when you're not um, disagreeing on things. And it wasn't until I finally started voicing, uh, you know, my dissatisfaction and anger and stuff, years and years later. By then, I think it was too late.
Okay, so let's then look at something very specific, which is avoidance of conflict or
Mm,
keeping the peace or not knowing that you have wants and needs. And then for me, another number four for me, which is very big, is being a guy that's been brought up to make the females in your life happy and safe and protected, but very much make them happy and take care of them. And you are not necessarily factoring into your own care outlook.
yeah. Um, I think also uncertainty is part of it. It's like uh, I know I had questioned myself as to whether what I was experiencing or thought I was experiencing was real.
Mm.
Um, Eventually, I decided it was, but again, it was like, if you think it's real, it's probably real.
Like, I want to know more about this. You questioned yourself about whether what you're experiencing is real. Are you talking about in a relationship or are you talking about the beginnings of an affair?
I would say the relationship.
Okay.
The beginnings of the affair, I there was no question about it. Uh, um, I wasn't looking for an affair, but it, no pun intended, it ended up in my lap anyway. Uh,
Mm. But the seeds in the beginning, when there's dissatisfaction
mhm.
and not voicing it, and then it grows into something where you actually get to the point where everybody's starting to feel rejected and hurt and angry and projecting their fears and pulling back. And so that pulling back, that withdrawal that comes with all these powerless feelings. Um, can you do you remember feeling that you've lost your power in a relationship, or that no matter what you say or what you contribute, you don't feel like you're making a difference, or that you're not heard?
I definitely felt like something. I don't want to sound like the victim here, but it just, it's just the thought process. Um, Nothing I could say was correct, um, and I don't know if this is considered gaslighting or not. I'm definitely not an expert, uh, but I do remember uh, a particular argument where, you know, I made a point, she disagreed with it, and then I brought up another point that she had said. So I was actually agreeing with her, and she still uh, uh, hammered that one down. So that was, yeah. As far as the turning point of the marriage, I would say that was probably one of them. Um,
Yeah, Larry, I'm happy that you say that, because and that's for a really important reason. I mean, I don't want to lead you into and lay words in your mouth or anything, but to come to a place where nothing you are saying is making an impact, and you really struggle to be right in the other person's eyes. So you eventually stop even trying to be right in that person's eyes.
yeah,
And this works for both sides. It works for women feeling the same, women feeling unheard, but feeling not seen and heard and appreciated for themselves. Reacts in exactly the same way, where you eventually give up, where eventually it is just too hard.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I think for even for anybody who is judgmental, I think it's really important to recognize that each and every one of us can end up in that place where we've got such a desire to be loved and to be seen for ourselves and to be accepted, that the pain inside us will actually, the hurt will actually be too big, and we would start looking for it from some other place. And the other place can be another man or another woman,
Mm,
but it can
sure.
also be, it can be all kinds of addictions, addictions to food or to sport or
Hmm.
workaholic. So it can be many, many things. It can be the 6 o'clock glass of wine that starts happening at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, yeah.
It's that feeling of I'm actually a little bit invisible here unless somehow I manage to fit into your expectations.
Yeah. Well, now that you mention it, I would say about the same time. I remember my my alcohol intake was definitely increasing. I wasn't allergic to booze or wine or beer or anything before, uh, but it was definitely becoming more of a routine. That and and television.
Distraction because and an affair is essentially distraction.
Yeah, it was definitely a distraction, and it was very rewarding. I have to say, at first, uh, I definitely was feeling uh, heard and appreciated, and interestingly enough, I think the woman I was in the affair with was feeling that she was in a similar situation. So
Yeah, and those words that you're using, I was feeling heard and appreciated,
uh-huh.
which really infers that's what you didn't get in your relationship.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be the same for many people. By no means I'm going to say this is a story for everyone. There's definitely people who are living out their own traumas and their own lack of self-esteem by having the one affair after the other. There's
Hmm.
definitely that. So I'm not,
Hmm.
but I am talking about the preventable affair. And I want to really differentiate between the two because there is a preventable affair.
I think affairs they're definitely preventable. You're going in conscious of what's going to happen, uh, but to prevent it, you have to decide to prevent it, and I didn't do that.
Yeah,
Uh,
but I think it's hard for the person in it to see it. I mean, I'm coming from my place. Like my job is a very big part of what I do is couples counseling,
mm,
and it's a road. You can see the road is going to happen. You can see somebody is going to go and look for something that plaster over a broken heart, the plaster over the disappointment, the plaster over the disillusionment, the plaster over their own wounds, even if the other party didn't do anything. Somebody is going to go and look for something that's going to make them feel better. And it might be that somebody just go and find a hobby
mm,
or get addicted to a sport and it can, it's just disconnect. But it's a half step away from somebody comes along and they admire you and they think you are awesome and you are not getting that. And they are willing to listen to you and they are not criticizing you and they are not changing the height of a bar all the
mm,
time.
right.
And then I think another thing, Larry, the lack of appreciation for what you have. I mean, how big is that?
Familiarity breeds contempt. Perhaps people really appreciate what is novel. So we were married for uh, 20 years before I had my affair. And I have to include myself in this. Maybe we just were not appreciating what we've been seeing day after day after day after day for 20 years. Uh,
Yeah, but Larry, what I'm getting at is this. So often, when we are in a relationship, we focus on what we want different. We don't look at what we already have. We don't look and see
mm,
we were compatible once, and we got together for these reasons. Once the dissatisfaction starts, we start looking at what we don't have,
Yeah.
and we stop spending time together. We stop having conversations. We stop saying, I like you because. We stop saying, I missed you today, come sit with me. We stop physical touch. We stop saying, where are you going? I didn't get my hug. So we stop putting in, and we stop looking at what's already good. So we stop showing appreciation, but we also stop putting in the good things that build a relationship. And so for me, it's always, let's go back to me, myself. Let me see, what am I putting in? Let me see, am I being critical? And do I always put the bar higher? Do I withdraw? Do I avoid conflict? Because that's where we're powerful.
Yeah, I have to say that's pretty accurate as to how our marriage evolved to the point where, you know, I was no longer interested in spending so much time with my wife. Therefore, I was in front of the TV, and probably she wasn't that interested in spending any time with me either.
It happens like that, and it's still the preventable affair, because if we stop it early enough and we start looking at ourselves, we can say, no, we need to change this. Let's get help. I don't want to do this anymore. There's a good question here from Mitch.
Oh.
So do you want to answer this?
That's a very complex question.
I think you answered that. I think you said when there's that emotional, when you are getting that emotional,
Well,
either emotional or sexual or both, connection with somebody else,
yeah,
that you are not getting with your wife. I think you
right.
said that, didn't you?
Well, I was going to say, it begins with sex, but it may very
No,
well
it doesn't.
begin much earlier than that. I would say, boy, I was just talking to someone who admitted that he has an affection for a woman who is not his wife. There's been nothing illicit there, but I don't know. Has that affair begun?
Yes, because, and look, research has shown that an emotional affair has as much damage as a sexual affair. So it's because the trust is broken, and because you don't work on your marriage, but you move away from a marriage. So your first priority is not your primary relationship anymore. I mean, I'm talking now, obviously, in a committed relationship in which the contract was, we are going to be in a relationship, we're going to be monogamous, and we are not going to be interested in other people. So, I mean, because people can have any kind of relationship they want, obviously. But in the one in which this is the contract we entered into, if we go and we stop working on the emotional connection with our mate, and we go do it somewhere else, we are actually breaking the primary connection that we had with each other. Because for very few people, it starts, or it is the most important, to have a sexual relationship.
Mm-hmm.
For most people, the thing that's more important is somebody likes you, they accept you, they want to be with you. And when that goes away, what we started the relationship with has gone away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I found out much later that what injured my wife, or even then ex-wife, what injured her more wasn't the fact that I had sex with another woman, which kind of surprised me. I understand that now, but it was the emotional tie I had with that other woman. So
Yeah, exactly. So I want to go back to Mitchell's question, which is, when does my friendship with the opposite sex become an affair? When you have the emotional connection with her that you actually wished that you had with your wife, or that you actually originally had with your wife,
Uh-huh.
or your partner.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. All right. So wait, we've got some interesting comments going on here.
Okay.
Okay, well, I was about to answer, but then one of our other listeners have answered really well. Yes, I like that. I'm voting for that question. Um, it- okay, all right. And I am, so Kira, I am not going to go into religion here because then we're looking for trouble.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
It's
I mean,
that question is
yeah,
above my pay grade anyway. So
yes. But so and also it's for your future. I don't know how you say that. It has got this completely. Be you. Um, that's an excellent answer. And so we're not going to go into the. We're not going to try and convince you that you're going to hell or not. Definitely not. But what I do want to say is, Kiran, if you have a problem with it, you need to learn to make peace with your sexual orientation. Because if you don't, you are going to be denying an essential part of who you are. Anyways, good luck with that. And I don't think I've actually ever done a talk about that, but it is really not what we are talking about tonight. But anyways, good luck to you, Kiran. I wish you all the best, and I hope you do find answers to this. And I hope you learn to accept yourself and like yourself, whichever way your preference run. So let's go to the next slide, Larry, because again, much wisdom there in your words. I was missing a big piece. So many pieces from my marriage. The lack of physical contact, the lack of meaningful conversation. That experiment I mentioned when I didn't say, I love you, just to see what would happen. I waited to see if Liz would question me about that, or if she would pick it up and tell me she loved me. For the rest of our marriage, I love you was never mentioned again. I know. So here, and I know this happens to so many people. So, I mean, I first want to just talk about this. In all those times, you didn't say, Liz, come sit here and talk to me because you know what? I have noticed, and I have said to you so many times, and I walk out this house, I love you. And I wake up in the morning, whenever, I love you. And you never say it back. Have you stopped loving me? Now, like, that's the obvious question.
oh yeah.
And it never ever crossed your mind that you could actually ask that.
Oh, it totally crossed my mind.
But you didn't.
But I didn't, and I think at this point I was reading the writing on the wall, and I had probably given up at that point. That doesn't take me get me off the hook. It is an important. It's probably the most important conversation to have. We've gotten divorced, but I think that divorce would have taken on a much different complexion had we had this conversation.
If we have that conversation in time, so it's about not having the conversation in time. I think that's the most important thing to notice, that if we don't have that conversation in time, and it doesn't cross our mind that we can actually have this conversation, then we are not stepping into our power. And look, Larry, I'm very sure that in your current, where you are now, in your current relationship and helping other people, that you are very aware of this. And this is one of those things which I'm very sure you are saying to other guys.
Hmm. Yeah, and while you're doing your thing there, I think another thing that um, another element of this whole situation where I where the day we stopped saying I love you,
Mm.
that other element, I think, was fear.
Mm.
I was afraid to ask her because I think I knew what the answer was, but and I didn't want to
Ah,
hear it.
wow. That is amazing. So, and I think there are many people who go, aha, I am so afraid of what I'm thinking is going on that I'm not going to ask.
Yeah, and I could have been completely wrong too, uh, but
Because they're afraid and then not asking is actually going to lead to exactly the same thing,
mm,
losing your relationship, most probably. Because
um,
yeah, because once that spite kind of thing happens, see if I care, or I disconnect from you, or I'm going to stop trying because you're not trying. The minute the spite comes in, that's the minute when we are now not just standing by, but we're actually creating some active disconnection. I think it's worthwhile to sort of repeat the whole idea because, and I think a lot of people who listens to this idea for the first time, because we are pretty much on automatic mode for such a big part of our life that we don't notice how we play this game of I'm hurt and I'm paying back. So I'm being hurt and therefore
mm,
I'm paying you back.
hmm
And you are hurting me, and then the other party feels hurt and then they pay back. So the hurt and payback goes on all the time. And we don't even notice that. It's that classical playground thing. You hit me, I hit you back. You you say something nasty to me, I'm going to say something nasty back. And we take that playground mentality and we take it into an adult relationship. And then we don't notice once we start retaliating. And once we start retaliating, the other part is just going to deteriorate from that side.
uh-huh. I'm hedging here a little bit because this event happened uh, 12 years ago now,
Yeah.
um, and but what you're saying is resonating with me. There's also, I think, you know, I said I love you, and she doesn't respond or doesn't say I love you back, and then that experiment and no response, and I was like, and I kind of remember this now. It's like, am I imagining things, or it's like let's give it another day. So,
Hmm.
so the next day, nothing, and that's the thing that snowballed. I think also I can't say that I was consciously retaliating. Elements of that were certainly there.
Yeah, but nobody does it consciously. Nobody's
Mm,
doing this to somebody else on purpose because we always are self-protecting. I mean, we've got such strong self-protective instincts in ourselves, and nobody does it on purpose. Which is why I don't like this whole gaslighting idea that's being blown out of proportion because gaslighting is nearly always sold as somebody's doing something to you on purpose
yeah.
instead of looking at it as we're all hurt people trying to do our best, and then sooner or later, I am going to be protecting myself in a way which comes off like this, or in a way which comes off as this,
hmm
but not this, not open, but
Right.
either fighting back or I am denying, I am ignoring, I am pulling back. And so these things gets called gaslighting. Instead of saying, but look at yourself, because in yourself, if you are the one who are willing to speak, and you are the one who is willing to say, but this thing that happened is not working for me anymore. Where did we lose it? Or where we start becoming used to say, there's too much criticism here. There's not enough appreciation there. Or, because we can say that, we can actually say, in this past day, you've been critical of me. This past month, you've been critical of me 355 times. and you have said one thing where you appreciated what I did. It's out of balance. I don't like that. I would like you to find the source of your discontent because it's not me. I do way more than one thing that you can appreciate. Our problem is that we arrive with a lack of self esteem. And then we're scared of losing the relationship and we can't see how amazing we are. And then we tolerate treatment where we criticize or where somebody expects us to
Right.
be better the whole time.
Right. Yeah. You definitely take on like with a lot of criticism. It's you hear it enough, and you start to think, well, maybe she's right. That's a driver that really brings your self-esteem down when you start questioning yourself, like or second guessing yourself. Another point you made was the response that people have toward criticism and the like. You were doing the fight or flight sort of hand motion, but you also did. I think I read this right. You had your arms open, so which is not a response. It's not a typical response.
No.
But I think it would be a powerful one.
Yeah.
Because one, it's unexpected, and two, you're going to get some really important information.
Yeah. No, I've been in that kind of relationship. And I've been in the kind of relationship that led to my husband having an emotional affair. So, but I cannot just turn around and say he's the guilty one. He's done some obviously guilty stuff. But I've definitely been the critical wife who expected so much more and who took it upon me to correct him. And that's bullshit, nobody's supposed to do that for another adult. There's such a different way of actually going about it and taking care of your own wants and needs and sticking your nose in your own business and working on yourself instead of becoming that person. So the critical person is not emotionally mature. That's the end of the story. There's a full stop after that. The critical person is not emotionally mature, and the critical person needs to mature some more. And I can say that because that's who I was. And you may have stuff that you are unhappy about, and that can happen. So I want to just go back to this.
Okay.
I waited for the rest of our marriage. I love you was never mentioned again because I do want to just go back to one word which I haven't mentioned. But there's an element of spite, and it's interesting because I thought about it today, and I thought, I actually want to do a whole talk about spite, because spite is just so often present that when we are hurt, we go into that childhood mode of spiting people. And when we spite somebody else, we spite ourselves. And there is that. I mean, it's there. So if you're not going to say you love me, I'm not going to say I love you either. And there's the spite. And we don't see that it's spite. We don't call it that. And I think we must start paying attention to spite.
Boy, that's an angle I hadn't considered, because I didn't feel like I was fighting her. To me, this was still like a scientific experiment.
Yeah, but Larry, the real definition of spite is, I'm going to do something which I know you're not going to like, but it's going to hurt me at the same time.
Yeah.
And that is the real definition of spite. And that's so not something that we do from lessons learned and our adult perspective, but it's so coming from our own hurt childhood parts. And I think it's really important that we pay attention to it and start calling it by its name more often, because so many people walk around spiting people from their hurt perspective. But anyways, I just thought I wanted to mention the spite thing. And if any of our audience are noticing that they do the spite thing, or they have done it in their life, please leave a comment for us, because it's something I want people to be really aware of, because it's that one. I'm not going to tell you I love you if you don't tell me you love me. and I will hurt myself in the process. And it's something that I actually had the power over to change, and I didn't. I chose the spite reaction.
Uh-huh.
And it always comes from feeling powerless. So, it's just built, everything we are discussing is just building the one thing on the other, on the other. So now, also now understand that I was a major, I can't see what I'm saying, contributor of scarcity in my relationship with Liz. I was more concerned about what I was lacking, but not how I could somehow make changes in my own behavior in order to improve the marriage, which I think is just what we've said, isn't it? Of course, this didn't all happen in an afternoon, or a week, or even a year. It was a slow and unsteady course to different realizations. It took me about 8 years to come to the point where I could say, yes, this is how I can be genuinely happy. Take ownership of everything, even if you're spiteful. Your marriage sucks. You did unspeakable harm to your loved ones. Own it. Own it so it doesn't own you. I learned that there was a way to make a life that had some meaning, some purpose, and this life could be a happy one. So I definitely want to stop at on a happy point. So I love this beyond absolutely everything. The whole idea of I need to own it. Okay, so I want you to talk a little bit more about owning stuff. So not only owning mistakes, but also owning your life from that point further.
Right. So just to put that into context a little bit, what I was talking about was after I had left the house. I left the house, and it was approximately 2 years before the divorce became official. But during that time, that's when I started rebuilding my, I guess, my character, my happiness, and I didn't know how to go about doing that. So I just, would think of ideas, throw everything up against the wall and see what's stuck. As far as your question goes about owning it, there's no running away from infidelity if you were involved in it. But what you can do, there's a lot of shame involved with infidelity. But shame is not a good place to work from or to live from. You can take responsibility for it, and you can be guilty of it. And I think that's a manageable shift if you shift your mindset from shame to guilt. Well, now, yeah, you're guilt. So now you've got something to work with. It's the difference between you're a bad person to you're a person who did a bad thing. So if you can own that, and it takes time, and it gives you a lot of breathing space eventually, so you can go about living your life. I mean, the very fact that I'm here talking to you about it, I don't think about this so much anymore. But there's a certain amount of strength, courage, whatever you want to call it, to be able to talk about this, and that's what ownership grants you.
Yeah, I have to applaud you for that. It does take a lot of strength to own talking about it. Yeah, and I so agree with you, because wherever you own it and you start applying self-compassion and you start working with the shame, and you've got to own and do the self-compassion and work with the shame. I mean, and I know you go one step further. You actually help other people too. I want to quickly put a really good question up here for you.
All right.
Okay. Do you think there's any truth to the general consensus that once a cheater, always a cheater? A leopard can't change its spots. For example, someone who's cheated multiple times on multiple partners. Okay, go, Larry.
Okay. Um, it, in a word, no, I don't believe that. It it certainly happens, but it doesn't have to. Case in point, me. I met my current partner 10 years ago, and you know, also ownership. Just for a second, allowed me to explain to my partner on our, it was either our first or second date, how I got divorced, uh, and and I told her, it's like, I don't need to go down that road again because it's very painful. But yeah, there are certainly people who are serial cheaters, and for reasons I don't quite understand. Maybe it's the thrill of the hunt or something. But for me, I, the pain is still uh, present enough, from years ago, that I don't need to repeat it.
But also, yeah, so you learned a lesson that was actually so devastating to you that you were willing to change something inside you. Am I hearing you right?
Um, yeah, well, it's like, okay, I've had that experience. I don't need that experience again. I certainly don't want it again. Actually, I think voicing that intention gives it more power too. So did I change something? I don't think so. I had.
But you have changed something because you're open about it. You're owning it now, and you've been very open with it. So you actually talk to your current partner. And if you're in a situation where your current partner don't say anymore, I love you back, are you going to be quiet?
Oh, no.
So you've changed
Not at
a
all.
lot because you
Yeah.
actually are talking now. And that, I think, is the most important thing to change. Because if you don't talk, you have no effect in the relationship. But if you're willing to talk about it, of course, you're still
Yeah.
involved in your own relationship.
Right. Yes. Okay. That part has changed.
Yeah.
'Cause, my partner is, we've had our disagreements, we've had our arguments. I wouldn't call them knockdown, drag out fights, but we've been vocal. The air is cleared eventually. And we continue to tell each other that we love each other.
And that is powerful. Being able to have a difference of opinion, not having the no fights, but have a different opinion, clear the air, work through it. And so I would say you have changed in many, many major ways, which you're probably not giving yourself credit for. And just this other thing, I mean, this is another big one. That shame is so, it's shame to be able to look at the shame and to be able to step up and do it publicly in spite of all of that. But to able to work through the shame, because the shame wants to make us run away and hide. And to do that's enormous growth and strength of character that comes through when you are willing to tackle the hard things and not give in to the shame. So I'm giving you many, many, many bonus points here. And I want to ask you another question, Larry. So the guys that you are helping, do you see lasting change, and are they able to move on and have successful relationships?
Oh, absolutely. And honestly, I don't feel like it's anything I'm doing. It's all coming from them. They're the ones that are making the decisions. They're the ones who are recognizing, I want to live this way. I don't want to live this way. It's when you break it down, it's really a simple question to answer.
Okay, I want to see if we're going to get any more comments here. So thank you, Berdine, for the like. Lots of love to you. I'm not having hearts today. I need some pity hearts, please, because with being bombed by a bored person on YouTube. That's the first time for me. I feel
Wow.
really important. Yeah, no, I feel really important now. I've been noticed enough to be bombed. Wow, finally, after all these years of 77 followers, I'm important enough to be bombed. So Kiran, you're really bored. Go find somebody with a very big YouTube channel so that you can be more entertaining yourself. And then we had an electricity breakdown, and you had to hold the fort. So yeah, thank you guys. I really do not mind any pity hearts. I still love it and appreciate it. Thank you, Felix, thank you, Stephen. So any more questions? Anybody has anything to add to this? Um, because while you guys are thinking, I'm going to let you shamelessly promote yourself, Larry. So you will, please tell us how you are helping people right now,
Right.
and how
Well,
you find.
so I suppose as part of that evolution that I was talking about since my divorce or separation, then divorce, and looking for happiness, and I became pretty quite the student of that whole happiness thing. It's now turned into I'm a coach. I guess it's life coach, but I'm a little allergic to that term. Um, Helping people, both men and women, with infidelity and the fallout from that is part of it, but not exclusive. And I'm also putting together a group coaching program where fun, interesting people with missions come together and we work on each other's problems, because my brain isn't big enough. I need 50 other people.
That sounds awesome.
It's just getting started. Anyway, you can find all that stuff on LarryMcInnes.com. And I suppose, would you have a link or something on?
Well, I'll ask you, Larry, to go on Facebook and
Mm-hmm.
just go and post the link in the description.
Okay.
Go
Sure.
and comment and go post a link, and anybody can go in and they can tag you. They can say, add Larry, and you will show up there. I'm going to end up tonight, because it's dark here. I'm going to end today by asking you a very big question.
All right.
What do you say to somebody who is freshly devastated, disappointed, disillusioned, shocked by their partner's infidelity?
Okay, here's a small answer to a big question. Again, it's not you. It's not a reflection of you as a person. It might be a reflection of something you've done or neglected to do. But you're still a valuable member of the human race.
Mm-hmm.
So let's work on that. Let's work on that.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really awesome. That's very powerful. Thank you for that. That's a great note to stop on. So I am going to ask all our very patient viewers, please share and continue giving. I really don't mind any pity hearts tonight. And share it with somebody if you know somebody who is going through the same hardship, or you can see, you know what, maybe you need to hear this. And then I'm going to remind everyone that our book is coming out soon. I'm having a bit of a formatting crisis on the one side, because our formatter lost the file, which was really unexpected, and the formatter has to reformat it now. So, but I'm hoping that somewhere in the next week or two, we can still go to publish. It is an awesome book. So much wisdom, so much straight talking, no beating about the bush. We are talking to guys. The language is there. It's great. It's nobody's hiding anything. It's amazing, it's beautiful, and I so appreciate you and everybody else, Larry, who have been vulnerable and brave and who is doing this to help other people. So keep on doing good work, and let's continue talking. And I would love to hear more about your program. Send me the link so I can share it in a newsletter.
Yeah.
Okay, so I am going to play our song now. We're going to sign out. Thank you for everyone who's been so patient and who have not run away when I disappeared. And much love to you. And if you come in and you watch the replay, I know a lot of people are watching the replay. Just leave your comments, tag us. We'll come in, we'll respond. And you guys do the same, please. Give us those hearts. And lots of love and appreciation to you, Larry, and everybody who takes the time to do this.
My pleasure.
Bye, everyone.